Hello, everybody. It is October 22nd, 2025, and wanted to talk about Social Security. It's been known for decades that Social Security is going to run dry. You may remember there was a serious effort by the Bush administration in the early 2000s to try to do something about it, which all the studies since then have shown would have worked. But that was not done. One of the Social Security is frequently referred to as the third rail of American politics, meaning if you try to touch it, you get electrocuted. The general rule is anytime any politician has tried to do anything to reform Social Security to make it solvent longer, pops up and says, they're trying to steal your Social Security. They want to steal it and give it to all their rich friends and make them rich, and they're going to rob you blind. And everybody buys it, and nothing ever gets done. As a result, based on the latest trustees report, we're headed toward bankruptcy for Social Security beginning in around 2033, plus or minus a year or two. Worst case scenario, maybe 2031. Best case scenario, maybe 2035, 2036. But generally, 2033 is about when we're looking at. So roughly a little less than 8 years from now. Um, at that point, Social Security will only be able to pay out around 80 to 85% of its benefits, and then that number will decline. So I want to understand when you hit 2033 and you get 85% of your benefits, that's not the end. That's the best it will ever be. It will get worse after that. So if you are, say, 60, you will get the best benefits you will ever get will be the first year or two, and then after that it's going to get worse. And if you are younger than that, same thing, only it's going to be even worse. Okay, so how did we get here? The answer is that when Social Security was created, we had far more workers than we did retirees. And what has happened is America's senior population has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and the number of young workers we have has started shrinking. All those babies we didn't have 20 and 30 years ago are now not here, and because they are not here, they are not working and they are not paying taxes. On the other hand, all the middle-aged people we had 20 and 30 years ago are now retired, and they are now getting their benefits. Now, generally what people say is, but I paid into the system, so yes, you did. I fully understand that. Here's the problem, though. You didn't pay enough. And that's not your fault. You paid what you were supposed to pay. You paid what the government told you to pay. It wasn't enough. To give you an idea, in 2010, okay, 15 years ago, that was the first year in which the amount of payroll tax money coming in was not enough to cover the cost of the benefits going out. Now, Social Security has different sources of revenue. By far, the biggest source of revenue is payroll taxes. But it also has taxes on Social Security, which it gets to recover, and then it has net interest on the Social Security Trust Fund. For decades after Social Security was created, the excess every year, more taxes were paid into it than were taken out. The excess was put into a trust fund. The trust fund was then loaned to other government agencies who have had to pay it back with interest, and that made the trust fund get bigger. A lot of people say that this robbed Social Security. That is not true. That has dramatically expanded the life of Social Security. Unfortunately, that no longer works. So what you have is you have your three sources of income. You have the payroll taxes, the taxes on Social Security, and the net interest from the trust fund. As of 2010, for the first time, payroll taxes were not able to cover Social Security. And I don't mean like it had a bad month or a bad quarter. I mean, that was it. It was never going to recover. However, the trust fund was still throwing off a lot of interest, and the interest from the trust fund was enough to cover the shortfall, plus have some left over, which then went back into the trust fund. So the trust fund kept getting bigger, even though the gap between the payroll taxes and the Social Security costs was getting wider. However, that has reversed itself. Beginning in 2020, the trust fund peaked at about 2.908 trillion. That was the year at which the interest was no longer enough to cover the shortfall by itself. As of 2024, the trust fund has dropped by about 200 billion to about 2.72 trillion. So what's happened is the trust fund is now shrinking. In 2024, we ran a $67 billion deficit. So what happened with that deficit? So basically, you get the net interest from the trust fund, you get the taxes on the Social Security, it's the benefits themselves, and then of course you have the payroll taxes, which is by far the largest source. That all comes in. Then you have your outflows, you have your benefits, your administrative costs, all that stuff. We were 67 billion short. So what do? We go into the trust fund and we pull 67 billion out of the trust fund. Not interest, corpus, principal. What this means is that the trust fund is now shrinking Year to year, it's fluctuating. It was 20 billion, then it was 50 billion, now it's 67 billion. The trend line is that the amount that we are taking out of the trust fund each year is getting bigger and bigger. Obviously, this puts you on a path toward insolvency, but it's worse than it seems. The reason why is that every dollar you take out of the principal of the trust fund not only costs you that dollar, but it also means that dollar is no longer producing interest. So you're going to get less and less interest income over time coming from the trust fund. Remember, we already don't have enough revenue to pay the monthly benefits and administrative costs are relatively minuscule. It's really the benefits. So what's happening is the amount of money coming from the interest is declining, meaning each year we now have to take an even larger amount of principal out. So this 2024 we took out 67 billion. We'll take out more next year. We'll take out more the year after that. 2024 is last year I have the data for. So the general, now year to year there might be fluctuation, one year might be less than another, but the general trend line is we're going to take larger and larger chunks of the principal out, meaning we're going to get less and less and less interest, meaning that the gap is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and thus requiring us to take even bigger and bigger chunks out of the principal. If this sounds like a doom loop or a death spiral, that is exactly what it is. And it is why that you might think, we have $2.7 trillion. How are we going to run out in 8 years? Because in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be taking a hell of a lot more money out of the principal of the trust fund than we are right now. And in 2 or 3 years after that, we'll be taking out a hell of a lot more money than that. This is what nobody's wanted to talk about. Since 2010, every penny that you or anyone you know has paid into Social Security has gone right back out the door. Every dime that I've ever paid in Social Security in my life, by the way, I'm 46, I have paid tens and tens of thousands of dollars into it, and I'm paying more with every paycheck. It's all gone. There is no account sitting there with my name on it and a pile of money saying, okay, Dem's put in this amount of money, and so this is what he's entitled to. All the money I went in has been going to pay the benefits of people who are already retired, and that has been true for the last 15 years. So when I get my next paycheck and Social Security gets deducted from it, that will go into the checking account. Basically, it will immediately go right back out to pay for somebody else's retirement. So if you are younger than me, I'm 46. If let's say you're watching this channel and you're 36. Every penny you have ever paid in your life Social Security has already been spent, and every penny you're going to pay is going to be spent. By the time you, really long before you hit retirement, by the time you are my age, the trust fund will already have been exhausted. So yes, this no longer works. We are going to need to cut benefits, raise taxes, and God only knows what else to try to fix this. But here's the problem. The moment anybody does anything about Social Security, someone says they're going to steal it. Most recent example, 2024 Republican primary, Ron DeSantis mentioned that we needed to do something to strengthen Social Security to make sure it was still there. Trump immediately went on an ad blitz. He's stealing your Social Security. He's going to steal it. He's going to give it all to your rich friends, to his rich friends. He's going to take it all from you. And everybody bought it. By the way, if you're one of those people, and if you bought the thing, remember when Nancy Pelosi in the mid-2000s, George Bush is going to steal your Social Security. He's going to take all the money you've worked so hard for. He's going to give it to his rich friends on Wall Street, and they're going to take it. You're going to be broke. Yeah, those are all lies, by the way. And there's been multiple analysis of Bush's plan, and had it done that, we would have added decades to the solvency of Social Security if we had followed his plans. So, by the way, the reason people keep doing that, politicians keep doing that, is it works. Once someone says, they're going to steal your Social Security, they're going to give it to their rich friends, you believe it. You never doubt it, and you will then vote against the person they have told you to vote against to. What this means is we are, as a result of our paranoia and gullibility, and yes, it sounds like I'm being condescending, I am, we're screwed. And there's absolutely nothing we can do, because the moment anyone tries anything to fix this, Democrat, Republican, whatever, someone's going to say, they're trying to steal your Social Security, they're going to give it to their rich friends, and you're going to be broke. And everyone's going to buy it. And so we're going to go bankrupt. And so the thing that everyone is afraid of, that Social Security will go bankrupt, is absolutely going to happen. Bye-bye.